Dude, I'm super excited to have you here. Thanks for coming, Tom.
Thank you ever so much for having me.
Heck yeah, dude. I have a lot of questions. But before we get into the questions, let's do like, can you give a quick overview of who you are? Well, I'll start. So like you won Alone UK. So Alone UK edition.
That's right.
Right. And when did you actually do it?
It was 12 months ago now
that
I was out there.
Okay. So you were out there 12 months ago and it just aired, like the final episode aired a month ago?
No, just Sunday. It literally just came out. So I've been sitting on The Secret for 11 months.
Wow. And I highly recommend. I don't know. I watched it on Channel 4.
That's right.
Is that where the place to watch it?
Mm-hmm.
Channel 4. Okay. So that's where I watched it. If you want to watch it, go to Channel 4, turn on your VPN so that you're in the UK.
Hopefully it'll make it onto Netflix, or there's rumors of it being in the US. I can't remember which channel.
Okay.
At some point it'll be exported.
It will be?
Yeah.
Maybe in like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, so I have a ton of questions because you won. How long were you out there?
35 days.
35 days.
Not as long as I expected.
What did you expect?
Well, I'm an avid fan of the American show. Like I've watched it for the last 7 years. I love it.
Okay.
And the shortest the American show has ever been is 65 days. And so like in my mind, I was going to be out there for like that long. And I thought I was halfway through the journey and suddenly they said, turn on your sat phone. And I was like, oh my God, what's happened to my family? I thought something really bad had happened.
When they called?
Yeah, and they told me I'd won.
No.
And so I was relieved that nothing had happened to my family. And obviously elated that I just won this and won the prize money and stuff. But then I was also like, man, it's a long journey to kind of get to the edge of your comfort zone. And I really wanted to push on to see this place kind of carpeted in snow. And I really wanted to actually like really find out my limits. And
how far out were you from it snowing?
Well,
like on that
10 days after we came out of the wilderness, it was -22 and snowing. So we had -8 when I was there. But it was about to get punishingly much harder.
Wow.
The river was freezing and
dude, watching it. So I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched episode 1 and 2. And then I just went to episode 6.
I recommend.
I want to see more Tom.
Yeah. So someone tweeted this rather nice tweet, which is basically saying that I was distressingly normal and a cheerful chap does not make for good TV. And so they didn't really include me too much in the first 4 episodes because they wanted to make it quite dramatic. And I was genuinely just smiling and having a lovely time out there. It was hard at times. I'm not trying to like paint over it, but it was about to get really hard. But
that was the vibe. So like I watched it and that was the vibe I got when I was watching it, because you see these other people and they're having, to be clear, they're much tougher than I am. So I'm not making fun of them. But they're like having mental breakdowns. I mean, like the way they're talking, you can hear in their voice like they are literally starving to death. Like they are dying, right? And like there's one lady, did you watch the whole season
Of course.
Of course, okay. So like there's one lady who's like trying to convince herself to call. And as a watcher, I'm like, you need to call because you don't look good. But she's like, I was like, man, if she just, I don't know, like talked herself not into calling, she might die out there.
Yeah, you're talking about Elise who came second.
I believe so. Yeah, yes.
She was genuinely like, because I saw her in the hotel. You have a refeeding program afterwards for a week, and she was skin and bones, and she was in a stage of starvation, and she said like, I understand now what heroin addicts must be feeling when they're clucking and desperate for heroin. Like the obsession, the consumption of her mind for food was like nothing she'd ever experienced. She was
unreal.
Like we go, oh, I'm hungry. But that's like the first stage of hunger.
That's just like you don't have sugar, like your blood sugar's out and you're like, I need a cookie. That's the first stage of hunger we mostly experience.
Like Andy stage. Your daughter.
Yep.
And yeah, we're so buffeted from hunger. We don't really experience it. And so no, she got it full on. And she's strong, mentally resilient, tough
for sure.
Woman. Brilliant.
I mean, you can tell she's way stronger than me.
But there's a few things that will really unravel your mind, and hunger and lack of sleep are 2 of them. They'll just completely destroy you. And I was lucky, I just caught enough fish and I kept myself well fed and I had routines that I stuck with, and so I preserved my mental state.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't eating, I would have been a mess.
Dude, it bounced between in the 6th episode at least, like it was showing the top 4 and it showed you, and it was like there's no comparison. Like Tom's out there chilling, catching fish, and they're like, oh, he hurt his wrist. Like that was like the thing. And then everyone else is like talking to themselves, hallucinating, losing their minds.
That was their edit, trying to make it look close as well.
Right. So the sprained wrist was probably happened like months back.
Yeah. And there's a clip of me like complaining about something like that. And you can see my shelter is half finished, which is like on day 7 instead of day 30.
So they just cut from day 7.
I wasn't very impressed with the edit. Someone commented on Twitter like, whoa, that part of Canada is so magic. There's a waxing and a waning moon in the same day.
Because they did it shamelessly. Like, yep.
And I understand you've got to make for a bit of drama. The American show is wonderful for being non-contrived and for having very little dodgy edit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I still know that there is some, but yeah, like they wanted to make it dramatic, kind of race and competition, and it wouldn't have been very interesting if they told the real story, I guess, because I had 20 fillets of fish stashed away that I'd smoked, and I was getting my stash ready for winter.
Oh my God. So how do you stash away in the woods fish?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, it's got to be...
And smoke it.
Yeah,
what does that even mean?
So you build a smoker, which is like a little teepee, and you put spruce leaves, like from trees and such.
So you had a Traeger out there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And basically all you're doing is it's drying. You're just drying stuff, and the smoke puts like a skin on it, it's called a patina.
Like when they dry the meat when they
like biltong and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so that's all you're doing. Basically, as long as there's no moisture, bacteria can't proliferate, and so you're just making sure things are bone dry. So every 2-3 days, I would just get all of my smoked fish out, give it a dry in the sun, and make sure that it was just bone dry. And as long as I said, as long as there's no moisture in it, it should last for a few months.
Wow. So you were ready to go a few more months.
Yeah. Not a few. I reckon I could have pushed to 60, 70 days, but okay. The reason they shoot these things in autumn is because the calories are there, but they're falling off a cliff. Like all the berries are shriveling and falling off the bushes. The fish are biting at first, but they start to go into torpor, like a state of hibernation, as the water gets cooler and they're not feeding. And so you gotta make hay while the sun's shining. You gotta stack the calories and try and hoard as much. That's what we ancestrally always did. Preserves. It's called preserve. You make jams with all the berries, you smoke the meat, we salt it. Everything was all about getting through the leaner times until we invented refrigeration and processed foods.
Right, because it was the harvest and the what's the other half? The harvest and I'm losing the term. The planting? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Like the reaping? Because reaping is the same as harvesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess
I don't know.
Planting.
We don't know.
I don't know
planting, hunting, and
that's just in our hemisphere as well. Like in the tropics, it's obviously less seasonal, but yeah, like
that's crazy.
That's something very beautiful about distilling life down to its simple existence and living out there, just like realizing kind of how we existed for 99% of our existence as hunter-gatherers. And
so that was one of the questions I had for you too. So let me ask this first. How long do you think you could have, you said 60 to 70 days. You think that's probably the cap?
So the calories were dropping off a cliff and temperatures were dropping. It was minus 40 about a month later. So I had
minus 30? 40?
And so I'm in centigrade, but they're the same, aren't they? Centigrade and Fahrenheit when it's minus 40.
Yeah, so it's
then
crazy.
There's parity there. But I built a lovely shelter with a chimney, but I had very little insulation, and you chew through calories when it's that cold, obviously, as well. So like the ratchet is turning, and I think another 30 days would have been tough, but I reckon I could have just got there.
So because that's interesting, because to me, like you're saying you have fish stashed away and you're just chilling out there. I mean, I understand this, but like, what do you think in 30 days when you say that, what's the thing you're saying would have done it?
Yeah, that was all the calm before the storm. So I had 20 fillets of fish. Okay. So that's I had 20 days of food.
Okay.
Although I'd supplement it with berries and leaves, like there's this type of spinach called plantain I'd eat, but there was frosts and that was getting shriveled. And so I would have been down to just my fillets of fish. That's 20 days of food if I didn't catch another fish. But the fish were just starting to bite less. And I don't know, like maybe I'd have caught another 10 more fish. And then, there's 30 days of food. or just a little bit more. But yeah,
Okay.
unless I was setting snares to try and catch rabbit and squirrel, and I set about 80 snares on my snare line, and I didn't catch any. And it was a very bad year for the hares. So you get like these inverse correlations between high populations of lynx and low populations of hares, and I think it was a very bad year for
What's
hares.
a lynx? Is that what they eat?
They're just a wild cat that eats the hare.
Okay.
And yeah, once their populations are high, the hares are low, and then the opposite happens every 10 years. You get these cycles where there's loads of cats in the forest.
I saw the snaring on, I think it was episode 6, and you were like going and looking at your snares, and they were all, you just mystified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still am. I've never snared before. Like that was all.
Okay.
That was all.
You said it was YouTube. Like I think on the
genuinely, yeah. I
like,
watched like 5-10 hours of snaring videos on YouTube. And I practice setting snares as well. But no, snaring something that's illegal in the UK. It's something we don't do on desert islands.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a whole new skill set.
And how does snaring work? It's like what is that? Like all I saw was the little wire with the loop in it.
Yeah, it's like a slip knot. So if you make one of those knots that gets tighter and tighter the more you pull on it. Mm-hmm. So it's just a stick with a slip knot on a metal piece of wire. And so you put it on a game trail where you can see that there's animals walking and that they would walk, and you put it exactly at their kind of head height. And so they would walk, they'd pop their head through it. They go, oh, what the fuck is that?
Pull away, it tightens.
Pull away, and that's it. And then they strangle themselves. It's not pleasant, but
well, you're out there trying to survive.
Yeah.
So yeah. Wow. What was it's such a crazy experience, dude.
You got to diversify by income, like calorie income, because obviously calories are money out there, and you've got to have diversified income streams. And
that makes sense, because if you're only counting on fish, I was gonna do you think, because a lot of people, it looked like in the edit, it looked like a lot of people were having way more trouble fishing than you were. Do you think that was because of like your location? You happen to be in a good spot for fish, or you think it's a bit of both?
Fishing is one of those weird things that two people can look like they're doing exactly the same thing and get very different results. And it's there's a lot of like just tiny nuance. It's the last few % of difference that can make a big difference. Undoubtedly, I had a wonderful spot. I had a really good spot. But yeah, I did quite a lot of things that made a difference. I could go into the real finer details. But one of the big ones was I took the largest hooks we were allowed to take, which was 7/0s. Normally when you're freshwater fishing, you take tiny hooks. The fish are more discerning, but I took these huge hooks because I knew there were pike, which have got mouths, bigger than my hands. And so yeah, I took these massive hooks that the pikes were less able to wiggle off, really. And we weren't allowed to have barbs on our hooks. And so the first 10 fish I caught, one of them I landed, the other 9 managed to get off the line.
Oh, wow.
And I also
so there was a lot of they get on the line and then they get off.
Yeah.
Is that normal, or is that I don't fish very much?
Normally always would fish with barbs on my hooks, so they stay on the past the barb. I'd never fished with barbless hooks before, so yeah, I don't know. But the pike, they jump out the water and flip themselves off the hook.
You got there was a pretty big fish, I think in episode 6 that you caught.
Yeah, the biggest pike was it was about 60 inches or so, meter or so long, Yeah, really nice pike.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How long did you eat that? Was that was it a feast for a day, or did you eat it over?
I would always just cut the fillets off and smoke them, and then I would just boil up the head and the spine and make my big broth. And dine on that.
And you made a broth from the bones.
Yeah, boil up all the bones.
Of course.
And, that's a nice thing. You cook in a pot and you extract every last calorie. If you cook over a fire, then every drip that you see going to the fire is like rendered fat that's falling in there, losing calories. And so a pot, you make sure that 100% of the calories and nutrients are going into you. You drink the water, everything.
Wow. So would you boil the fish?
Yeah. Or so it's not as nice as frying it, obviously, but
not as tasty.
But it
doesn't matter out there.
It's amazing how you, after a while out there, because you're depriving yourself of minerals and fats and salts and stuff. After 25 days or so, your body starts to really notice the bits of the fish that it wants, and you're that you can taste that the cheek meat has got more nutrients to it, and then you start to really crave the liver and the kidneys, which I normally hate. And it's
delicious, wasn't it?
Yeah, and your body's that's what we need. That's where the pleasure centers are going to fire, and it's kind of interesting to witness that.
Did you eat any squirrels out there? I saw, I don't remember his name, but one of the guys like squirrels was his thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
like
I didn't. And
Okay.
I would have, had I changed an item round in hindsight, I would have not taken the net and I would have taken a bow and I could have got several squirrels. I could have probably got like 10 grouse. It was an error not taking the bow. But
Okay.
I did catch a duck on day 25 in my net accidentally.
In your net?
Yeah, I was trying
Oh
for
my
fish,
God.
obviously, and a poor duck got caught in there. But I was saying about like how things are, the flavor and taste of things are accentuated. When you eat a duck, when all you've eaten is pike and leaves for 25 days and you eat roast duck, roast duck I like it tastes incredible on a good day. It's one of my favorite meals. But like I roasted
same.
this thing in this Dutch oven. I put like coals on the top. I cooked it from all directions and I lifted the lid. The smell was like intoxicating. It was just like being in a fine dining restaurant. I think
Better than that, I'm
I mean,
sure.
it was better than
It was
any
better than
triple
that.
Michelin style meal I can ever eat. Nothing. I mean, they say hunger is the best sauce, but yeah, nothing can prepare you to like eat something after depriving yourself of that
You
for
said you
25
cried,
days.
right?
I think I wept into my bowl. Yeah, it was unbelievable. That was the 25th of September, which is coming up soon, and for now 4th, it's quite bougie. But the 25th of September will be Duck Day,
Duck
and I'll
Day.
eat a whole duck to myself.
All I've ever eaten of a duck is like a duck breast, I think.
Oh, it's all about the crispy skin.
Oh yeah,
But
the
yeah,
skin. Well, with the skin on top.
Yeah,
like
gotcha.
oh, dude, the skin is.
Oh my God.
I mean, I don't know if like how well it was rendered, or I don't think it mattered out there, but the skin's amazing. How much food is a whole duck? Like, is it like now that you're gonna eat it when you're not starving? Is that like a lot of food? Like, it's gonna. You know what I mean?
I guess the really kind of the point of always is that the wild stuff is such smaller. Like when you have an organic chicken, you can see how much
That's
brawnier
true.
they are.
You're gonna get a duck. It's gonna be like.
Yeah, no, the duck I got was smaller, but it was still a really damn big good meal. I ate it in one sitting. Oh,
yeah.
it was. I mean, I said it's the best meal of my life.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it's probably getting over 2,000 calories. I'd say
from the whole duck.
From the whole duck. Yeah,
Yeah, that had to be the best feeling in the world.
Oh, it was insanely delicious.
Did you lose? Well, before. Okay, so all right, back up. So like you're leading. Okay, actually, let me go further back. Before, how'd you apply for the show? Like, what did that look like? What gave you were you already doing Desert Island Survival before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah.
So yeah, we can talk about Desert Island Survival in a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, we will.
I've run that company for 7 years.
Cool.
And so I guess it was about 15 months ago, I got a email saying, "Hi, we're creating this new TV show. Have anyone who's been on your trips, would you think that do you know anyone who might be interested in this kind of experience?" And I was like, screw those guys.
Yeah.
I am interested in this trip. They didn't call it Alone. It was called The Wilderness. They were trying to like keep it under wraps.
Okay.
And so I applied, and then I found out it was Alone, which I'm just super fan of.
Which you already were a fan of.
Huge
That's
fan.
got to be the craziest surprise.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
really elated then. I was like, okay, wow, this is legit. Because
Okay.
in the bushcraft community, Alone is the survival Olympics. It's the non-contrived, it's the real like test of your mettle experience.
Yeah.
And so I applied. 2,000 people applied. And yeah, I got shortlisted and had to do a few like bushcraft assessments where you send in videos of yourself and things.
Okay.
And yeah, I made it through the selection process. And
What do you have to send in? Like,
they gave like some options. They're like, could you? I built a chair and like I filmed myself building a chair for like 4 hours one afternoon.
okay.
So I went to a friend's house down in Sintra and just like, can we fell a tree and take
Oh
it to your
my God.
garden?
So you were in Lisbon when you applied for the show?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Lisbon?
I mean, I basically just arrived. So yeah, I've been in Lisbon like 15, 16 months. So,
Okay.
yeah. So it just happened just after arriving.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see. Wow. And then, okay. So then you got the approval.
Yeah.
Hey, you're on the
found out
show.
I was on the show. And then I was like, right, I've got 7 weeks to learn as much as possible because I'm a tropical survival guy. I've never done a day in temperate woodlands. So I had to learn all about Canadian flora and fauna and things like trapping and stuff like that.
Okay.
I've got 7 weeks to get aggressively fat.
Yeah.
So I because as I said, calories are money in the bank. And so I started by drinking olive oil, which is
No.
really
Oh,
peppery,
my
like it burns the
God.
back of your throat. So I was doing shots of olive oil, and then think someone said, dude, like, or I thought of it, try coconut oil, which is much smoother.
Okay.
And then I started putting that in every like smoothie in the morning. And I was probably putting like 400 mil. I got a bit of the shits, but that was 2,000 calories for breakfast straight away, or maybe more, like 3,000. And then I'd have my coffee. I'd put like double, triple cream, like in my coffee with sugar.
Okay.
And then just eat, pasta. I'd still go to the gym and work out as well and try and like put on muscle, because your body doesn't just break down fats, it breaks down muscles, because there's different minerals and vitamins in either. So, you've got to have both. You can't just be super fat.
Okay.
And so, I managed to put on 20 kilos in 7 weeks, which I was pretty proud of. I was disgusting.
Holy smokes. For all the Americans out there, it's like 45 pounds,
That's
50
it.
pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
In 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
My blood pressure was like peaking at
Were you like
155? I had heartburn.
Were you just loving life though? Like that had to be
like your pleasure centers stop firing. Your body stops rewarding you for this
probably
behavior.
just hurts. Yeah.
It
probably just starts to feel bad.
Yeah.
That was something that, looking at the other people on the show, it didn't look like a lot of the other people did that.
No.
Like they didn't look like, you certainly looked like you had a little bit extra.
Oh yeah.
And hell yeah. But the other people, like, they just look like fit. And I was like, that's why Tom won.
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely
part of it for sure.
It was definitely, there's a number of strategies that kind of come together, and that was definitely one. People, I think one person put on 8-9 kilos, but no one put on close. No one took it as seriously of getting fat as I did. And one person, like Lise, she only had 3 weeks to prepare. She only found out she was going on the show 3 weeks before.
Whoa.
Yeah, so she
3
did not
weeks.
have long. And she's never done really bushcraft before as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like she's
what place was she?
Second.
What the F?
Yeah, they definitely miscast. Like
Okay.
I'm disappointed. Like, I kind of would have liked someone to push me toe to toe a bit further and and showcase that there's Brits that can do this rather than we're all just yeah.
Because you said the American one, it's like a minimum 65 days and then this one was
season 1. Yeah, this one was 35 days.
Wow. That is really wild, dude.
Disappointing. But.
Yeah. So did you have, so this was one of the questions.
Did you have coffee?
Yeah. Okay. You didn't, right?
I didn't, but I did find peppermint. And so I was able to have peppermint tea.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I loved my peppermint tea.
I mean, peppermint or mint, I suppose, would be a relatively easy thing to identify because it's like,
I think most of us can get that one.
Yeah. I just touched my tongue to it and then probably die. Not peppermint. Did you ever, I didn't watch episodes 3, 4, 5, but did you or anyone else that you know of ever like eat anything that like just was, I don't know, like there's a lot of shit you can eat that'll not be good, right?
Yeah,
or make you sick.
It's happened in the US show, and it's normally people getting food poisoning from the meat they eat. Like when people eat beaver, and they get trichinosis, or like it's really easy to get food poisoning from stuff like that. But from
beaver,
beavers carry a lot of parasites.
So
bacteria.
You get gotcha.
And there's a scene where I caught a mouse and I ate a mouse, and they really alluded to that.
That must be in episode 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they really alluded to that being like a huge gamble, and obviously mice. So I mean, country mice are very different to our city mice, but they still can carry a lot of.
What do you do to you just cook the crap out of it so that it kills the parasites?
And I should have cooked it more. I think I just roasted it on a stick, and in hindsight, I should have boiled it.
How was it?
It was just like a overdone crispy chicken wing.
Oh, okay.
But it was
didn't taste.
It was good. Like it was nice to have some. That was
food.
like on day 15. It's nice to have some meat along with fish, just a little snack. But that's like 50 calories, and so the risk for 50 calories is
fair point. Yeah,
asymmetrically bad.
And that's the thing with berries too, right? Is berries and leaves, which you said you're eating leaves. I saw one guy eating tree bark at one point.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
That's the cambium layer. I think I tried a little bit, but it's so astringent. It's not good. It's like real starvation food.
Yeah,
and you can eat the moss as well, the lichen. If you boil it 4 times and get rid of the acids and stuff like that.
Boil it 4 times.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
In your Civil War and things, that's what people were surviving on.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But no, we're really vigilant about like if you can't 100% identify it, you don't take a chance on it.
Don't eat it.
No. So, but we learned the things that were good to eat before.
That makes sense.
I found some mushrooms, which I knew were boletes, which is a family of mushrooms that There's none of them are deadly. And I dried those out and I was like, oh, do I want to? But I wasn't certain what bolete they were. I knew it couldn't kill me, but it could have made me sick. And it was covered in mouse droppings. And so then I started catching fish and I was like, I will just leave those.
I'm just going to stick with the fish.
I don't need those.
Yeah. Dude, so what was before you went on, you gained weight. What else did you do? And then you obviously studied Canada stuff, bushcraft. What else did you do though? Did you because you probably had to get off coffee before, because you don't want to be out there and have caffeine headaches, right?
Yeah. So I normally drink tea anyway, but
Okay.
but yeah, I'd scaled that down for 2 weeks beforehand, and alcohol as well.
Okay.
I didn't drink for like 6-7 weeks before, and that's really
What
it.
about sugar? Did you try to cut out sugar for the most part?
No.
Well, you're gaining
fattening
weight.
up on sugar.
No, dude, all I ate was sugar.
One thing I didn't do that I should have done is actually like a little bit of fasting. So, when you go into ketosis, I think we talked about this.
We did, because Michaela and I were doing
Exactly.
keto, and then it's what triggered it. Yeah.
So obviously out there, I had no choice but to go into ketosis through my diet, and I'd never done that before. And I think having that muscle memory is useful for your body to have experienced it at least once before, because you can get really sick when you shift in ketosis, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Michaela was really sick.
And so I'm lucky. Could that happen?
Yeah. So did you have you were fine?
No problem at all.
Wow.
One guy, Alan, he had real problems processing fats and things, and I wonder if his body did not agree with a high fat diet.
There was something with him, he couldn't. The fish were making him sick.
Yeah, and
which sucks because it's one of the main sources of food out there. That
totally. And he also one of his 10 items was pemmican, which is a mixture of deer and berries and stuff like that. It's a real high calorie food, built on beef jerky stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he couldn't eat that as well. He said it was also making him sick. So his body reached a point where it was just no, I'm not eating this stuff. So he couldn't continue.
Wow. Yeah, he was Alan was interesting to watch because he, near the end, again, all these people are tougher than me, but he was losing his shit. He was really he was getting lost. It's kind of scary to watch. My thought was and how long has the US version been running? 8 years?
10 seasons. So I think
has anyone died yet?
No.
How is that possible?
One girl who came very close to dying.
Okay. What happened?
She waded out to reset her net. And so the water was a couple of degrees above zero.
Whoa.
And you've got 15 minutes until your body's going to shut down. She went out there to do her net, and she wore her life vest, and it had one of those activation things that wasn't meant to happen. And so suddenly it inflated, and then she was kind of turned on her side and got her legs caught up in her net. And she was just out in the water. She had to very, very calmly, and she did a tremendous job. I think her name's Teresa. And she managed to just very slowly untangle the net from her legs and eventually escape. But man, she was genuinely a few minutes from death. Our coffee's just arrived.
Yeah, that's why. Sorry.
No,
it's important shit.
Important shit.
Thanks, Thiago.
The life fuel of a podcast.
Dude, life fuel, bro. That's crazy. So how'd she get out? Say it again.
She just took her time. She didn't panic.
She just didn't panic.
If she had panicked, she would have died. But she was just very pragmatic and slow and right, this is important. If I don't do this, I'll die. And got on with the job.
That's what being hungry does to you.
Yeah,
stoic. I've never, the longest I've not eaten is not extraordinarily long. Probably I did when I was religious, I would fast sometimes. There you go, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I would fast sometimes when I was religious, and
I know about Ramadan, but is that something in the Christian faith that there's?
I don't know. It depends on which branch you're part of. It's in the Bible. Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Really good.
Yeah, it's in the Bible. So people, I don't know. It wasn't a yearly thing. It's something you might just do to feel closer to God, or to test yourself, or to as a meditative, prayerful type of thing.
I wish they promoted more of stuff like that.
Yeah, even non-religious versions of that would be really good. But But there is, what I was going to say is there is like a euphoria once you get past that initial, like, oh my God, I'm dying, or your body's just freaking the hell out. There is a euphoria. Like you feel really good.
Yeah.
Right. Did you have a lot of that out there?
You
felt fucking amazing.
I pushed my scale of happiness further than I ever thought existed. I thought my peak happiness was here. I'm gesturing with my hands. It turns out it's over here. I didn't realize I could feel that good. I think,
when did that hit? Like day what? Like, because probably the first like 3 days you're just like
the first 3 days you're chasing your tail. It's madness.
Of course, yeah.
But no, after a few weeks, once I had my routines dialed in, I had my nice shelter, I was sleeping well, I was eating well, and then I was just able to start to really enjoy where I was and what I was doing. Having that clear mind, having just nothing to think about. We try and keep too much in our head. And all I had to think about was like, where's my next food coming from? Or what should I do? What should I film? And even then I had nothing to think about. And again, it goes back to like our Paleolithic life and now. And we used to just be simple hunter-gatherers. And when you live that simple existence, it's amazing how well the glove fits. I mean, there's a lovely quote, like we have Paleolithic brains with medieval institutions and godlike technology. No wonder we have like record amounts of depression and anxiety. And, we're trying to really hit a square peg into a round hole the way we live our lives with our Paleolithic brains. And when you live that simple way, man, it feels so good.
All of a sudden,
so good.
Yeah. And I've probably the most akin to that, which isn't at all, but the most I've done is like I've done 5-day backpacking trips where you're out there on the trail, you have 40 pounds on your back and you're walking 10 miles a day. And yeah, I would, those in terms of like my happiness, it's a euphoria. Like I can't compare anything really in my life
exactly
to the joy I get out there. There's just such a simplicity to it. Like you're saying, like in my case, I'm just walking, you walk for 10 miles and that's all you do all day. You get up, you eat, you walk, you talk to your friends. And I mean, so that's another aspect of this too, though, with Alone. If you haven't watched the show, again, highly recommend it, but do the UK version because Tom was on it. But you're alone. It's not only that you have to survive as long as you can. It's not like Survivor where you have a team of 5-10 people or something, and then they're giving you rice all the time. They just drop you out there and you are literally alone. So what's that like mentally? Is that a challenging piece of it? Or are you like, no, I'm introverted. I just want to chill on my own anyways?
Yeah, it was something I was totally unproven for. I didn't know how I'd react. I'd never done more than a day or two on my own. But a classic only child. I think I'm also like, I am my best friend and I really enjoy my own company. And it was fine. I think it would be a lot harder if I wasn't filming. The camera gave me this companion. It was my Wilson.
Dude, it was your Wilson. I was thinking about that.
And everything I was doing, I was just explaining to my Wilson, and just like it was my buddy that I was talking to and sharing it with. And then the other kind of thing I practiced quite a few mental disciplines out there. And another one I practiced was kind of self-compassion. Like we only have one inner voice, and well, you may have more, but the idea, like I made sure that was my best buddy and that it was a good, encouraging companion with me. And I was always like, occasionally, like instead of being like, you're an idiot, I'm like, you're being a bit of a nincompoop, or I don't know, like silly. Just being a bit more like kind and playful, and just was very mindful of the language I treated myself with.
It seemed like you had so like from the way it was shot or edited, it seemed like one of the big motivators for you going out there was a pretty personal, like, I want to like you talk a lot, or at least they showed a lot, you talking about like being a fat kid, right? Yeah. And like sort of the insecurity you carry around that. And was this for you like a way to...
That was definitely the narrative that the show...
That's what they showed, and that's what I'm wondering, yeah.
For me, my main driver was to... I've always watched the show and fantasized about the experience and that opportunity to get close to nature and live that simple existence. And also, I teach this stuff, and people always say, well, what's the longest that you've ever done on your own? And I'm like, a day? And it's embarrassing. I feel like I've never tested my mettle.
People. Yeah.
I've been learning these skills and I've never put them into practice. And so, it was a real chance to do that. But no, and what I shared on the show about imposter syndrome. So yeah, I was the fattest kid in my school. I was academically bottom of my school. My nickname was Bum. Like things
Your nickname was Bum?
Yeah, things were not looking good for this chubby little fella.
Okay.
And I don't know how I live the charm life I do now. Like it's amazing. But and so yeah, and it is true. Like I had when you're told you're stupid, particularly at a young age, a formative age, those labels stick. Like if you tell a child they're clumsy, they feel they're they kind of own those
and then
labels.
they sort of become clumsy because that's their
exactly they manifest it in a way.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so like I did talk about imposter syndrome. It's taken me decades to shake off that feeling of being stupid and build up that self-belief. And so yeah, this was a nice way to.
Do you think you've shook it?
Yeah, I feel like it's always still, it's tiny.
Does it ever go away?
It can get bigger, but it's now manageable in a little cage far
but
away.
It gets smaller, yeah.
But, like if you're in a period of anxiety or something, these things kind of creep up and
they
grow.
come back.
They can always grow. They're always, it's just shrunk to a very small size.
But it was helpful. The experience was helpful for you to, which it makes total sense because you're out there and you're just in nature. And like you said, like, if either of us woke up this morning, and a lot of people do, but you like write down all the things you're going to do today or have to do today, or things you're responsible for even, or things that you have to make sure don't go bad, whatever, it would be like an obnoxiously long list. And when you're out there, it's like, don't die.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And don't hurt yourself so that you can last. But there's a massive simplicity to it.
Totally. And I carry around in my day-to-day life just a bit of like anxiety and tension, and just because, I don't know. As I said, a lot of us do. Yep. And out there, obviously, that went from my mind, and it was amazing how that showed in my body as well. So I think also changing my diet out there was, again, the classic paleo diet of just fish, leaves, berries, and this real clean living. Mint tea, like pints and pints of mint tea every day. And a lot of these things I've since looked up are like anti-inflammatories and stuff like that.
Wow.
And my body felt like it had this total reset. So my gut biome, I feel, had a total overhaul. So I normally would get IBS, like irritable bowel syndrome, bloating and things like that. We're now like 12 months later and it hasn't come back. I feel like my gut biome has been like rebuilt. That whole population, that's gone, which is amazing. And
that's crazy.
And like we generate serotonin in our stomach, and I feel happier as a whole. I feel like there's the mind-body link. There's definitely been an improvement there. And the inflammation that left my body when I was out there as well. Like I became so. Obviously, I lost like 18 kilos in 35 days, 40 pounds. But yeah, my whole body felt just better, and it was amazing.
What is stress like when you're out there, and what is it like when you have, the kind of like you're saying, like this day-to-day stress you have, and then you go out there and it's so simple, and you don't, you're not thinking about making money, you're not thinking about work, you're not thinking about how to be ambitious or successful. But you are, of course, there's some degree of quote unquote stress in terms of finding food and making it far. But what's like, is this stress you experience pretty different than the normal day to day? And what's it like?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of low level background stress that we don't even notice. Like living in a city, you've got car horns and buses and things, and they're constantly like triggering our fight or flight mechanism and putting us on edge and releasing endorphins, not endorphins, the opposite. Serotonin.
Or cortisol.
Like cortisol. Thank you. That's what I meant.
That's the one. Cortisol. Yeah, I got you.
This coffee's kicking in.
I live, dude. Yeah, we're living on cortisol, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
And out there, obviously, you've got none of that. And so definitely quiet. But stresses, I think, they are things like food security. Like if you go a day 2, 3 without catching a fish, you start to really question like whether you're going to last out there. But then on the flip side, again, you really realize what your brain chemistry is there for when you are catching fish. Like I spent 4 hours a day fishing or more because it was for me a killer of boredom and an entertainment. as well
Okay.
as obviously highly functional.
Yeah.
I loved it. I love fishing anyway. But every cast was like pulling the handle on one of those
Like a slot machine.
one-hand bandit kind of slot machine. Exactly. Every cast you like get that anticipation of dopamine, and then when you catch a fish, you get this rush of dopamine and rewards, and it makes you realize that's all our brain chemistry was there for. We now seek all these different ways of getting those pleasure centers stimulated through shopping and porn and alcohol and
Oh man.
horror or whatever it
Pulling
might
out
be.
your phone, scrolling on
Yeah,
social media.
exactly. Notifications and stuff.
Mhm.
But when, just distilling life down to its simple existence of what these mechanisms were built for, you really get that realization. And glove fits so right. It feels so good.
Yeah. Did you get a sense of what's interesting to me is like, our ancestors didn't do that for 30 to 60 days. They did it all the time. Now they weren't alone. So I think that is a really important component of human evolution and ancestry is like we've definitely evolved to be together in communities and tribes. But do you think you got a sense of how a person would and could with just the, like survive just like our ancestors did?
Totally.
Yeah.
And, I'm doing it easy. I've got a saw, an axe. Like the Dene, the local band population who lived there, before Europeans bought axes, their axes were made from beaver's teeth and their nets were made from willow bark.
Oh my God.
And so you realize, and all of their clothes were obviously made from hides and from bears and muskox and whatever it might be.
And they're getting by fine, aren't they?
Yeah, they're getting by fine. And, and ancestrally, we did all this. Okay, we did it in groups of people. And the challenge for us, like one day I hurt my back and I was like, okay, now if I literally can't get up, then I can't feed myself. I can't get water. I have to quit. You would die.
You would die.
And
yeah.
so
Quitting is
we
dying
always
out
had
there.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always had a tribe to lean on,
Right.
who could help one person who was an invalid or sick at that time. But no, like, I had it easy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
ways.
For sure. Because you got to bring 10 items, right?
Yeah. That's right.
So what'd you bring?
So I took an axe, a saw, a multi-tool, like a Leatherman,
Okay.
which was my knife as well. And then I took a cooking pot, a fire striker, a sleeping bag, a fishing net, fishing hooks and line, and paracord and snare wire.
Okay. And you're pretty happy with that selection?
Yeah. The only switch would be the net for the bow.
Okay. Even with the snaring wire, which like did not work at all?
The snaring wire I used, so it was critical for my fishing because I used it as a leader that stopped the pike from biting through the line.
Okay, so I have multiple
I
uses.
used it for tying up my shelter.
Okay. What about the clothing situation? Like I saw you out there, people, like you had a good bit of clothing on.
Yeah.
So what's that? Like what are you allowed to bring with clothing?
Yeah, there's a full list of everything that you're allowed to bring. So
Okay.
you're allowed like 4 pairs of gloves, 6 pairs of socks. Otherwise,
Okay.
it's 2 pairs of trousers, 1 t-shirt. Yeah, like you're allowed.
So you're allowed
really
a
good-
decent amount of.
Again, like I had this serious equipment that I used it for sleeping on, and I never actually had to like wear it in anger to keep warm, which I was also like, I really wanted to.
Yeah, you never
hunker
got to
down.
get to the cold.
I've got these ridiculous wool dungarees that what am I going to do with them now?
Wow. So so the isolation element of like I'm like no one's here to talk to me other than my Wilson camera. Like it was like I feel like I would go nuts. I'm kind of extroverted though. Like I like talking. I like people, and I like alone time. But in like even if I'm at home all day alone, I get like,
Yeah.
oh man.
My wife's the same.
Yeah.
I
see
am.
people.
I'm definitely an introvert.
Okay.
I must be.
Yeah, I mean, if you can be out, dude, for sure. If you can be out there and just be like pretty satisfied, like so that wasn't a component of it for you that was particularly difficult.
No, and it may well have become one. And interestingly, you have a medical every 7 days, where there's actually you get this tiny bit of human interaction for 20 minutes. They come and you're
Okay.
asking about Elise maybe dying, so she would have got a medical, and then they said, "Sorry, you're too skinny, you can't continue." They come and take your blood pressure, your weight, and they
Okay.
check your mental faculties are all there. Anyway, that 20 minutes of interaction is incredible. Again, your brain is firing, just like, wow, we need more of this people crack.
Really?
And then when they go, it's like this come down, this absence, this palpable kind of absence of humanity. And apparently a lot of people quit after their medical because you really
Because
feel
it's just
that.
this high, and then you're like, oh, I'm alone
you
again.
feel this depression almost creep in.
Whoa.
And I felt that and then
Okay.
when it ended, it was amazing to talk to people and go back to the hotel, but also was saying about, I think I was saying, maybe I wasn't, the aperture of your senses kind of opens up a lot there. You
Mhm.
smell more, you hear more, you taste more. So like that's why the duck tastes so good as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
You become a wild animal, you're in tune, you're listening out for bears, and your senses are so heightened. And then when you finish and you go back to this hotel, or you go in a helicopter as well, and just talking to people, I could do about 10 minutes until I was just exhausted. I found it overwhelming. And then when I tried to sleep, I had to open up all the windows. Every noise in the hotel was driving me crazy. I had to unplug the fridge. I was waking up to anything. I felt like I was on amphetamines. My brain was buzzing. And it took me like 3 or 4 days for my brain to close down. And it's kind of sad that that's how we live our lives. Like,
And then
with our
you
senses.
acclimate, and you abuse yourself to the point where you're like, all right, well, you got to sleep.
Yeah, if you had those heightened senses right now walking around Lisbon, it would drive you crazy, like every noise.
So instead of having those heightened senses as we've sort of evolved to in nature, it's all muted.
Yeah, we turn them down.
Because you have to, because otherwise you'd go crazy.
Yeah, be overstimulated.
But that's what you experienced, is just this wild. Do you get that? So like Tom is also the owner, founder, head honcho, king of Desert Island Survival.
I didn't know who you were talking
Emperor.
about.
Yeah, you're like, what? Yeah, like where the fuck is this going? Yeah. No, of Desert Island Survival, which is 10-day, right?
Yep.
Excursions onto desert islands and survival and everything. It's amazing. And I want to do it. When you go, because I know you just went last month or so, you got back from a excursion?
Tonga, near Fiji.
Okay. Do you experience, to a lesser degree, because I know you're not out there quite as long, but do you experience a similar degree of, because like when you got back, I saw you at school, I think pretty soon after you had arrived back, I think. And just looking at you, I was like, man, like you looked like you got back. You looked overwhelmed. It was like a lot of, is that and maybe it was just like a weird day. That was, and I might be reading it wrong, but do you get that when you come back from these excursions as well?
Yeah, a little bit for sure.
A little bit of like, oh my God.
I get a lot of the benefits of kind of this nature deficit disorder that we have. I get my kind of dose. But I'm running these trips, and so I'm also thinking about all of the logistics and
so maybe
my customer happiness and stuff like that. So it's still quite consuming and has its stresses.
Yeah.
But for my guests,
overwhelm might not be the right word, but you just look like,
getting back on track of this.
And I interpreted it as like, oh, maybe he just got back and it's like a lot of sensory input, but maybe that was,
I mean, it definitely is. It's a shift.
Okay.
It's a shift. And I do feel I always feel a bit down for a week or so.
I was going to ask, do you get like fucking depressed? Like you come back and you're like, this is the real bullshit life I have to, I mean, that's cynical. But
I love the yin and yang of my life. Like, so I get to go to tropical islands and spend time in nature, then come back to an awesome city with amazing restaurants and people. And because when you're out in nature, that's what you crave. And then when you're here, you crave nature. And I like that back and forth. Yeah. But I am finding more and more like, maybe I would like a little house in Sintra that I'm half an hour from Lisbon. I know it's there. I can go in and get it, but I'm in nature a bit more. And I feel like I'm starting to be ready for that.
Want that a little bit more.
Step a little further out.
We just went to Midori last night. Do you know that restaurant? It's a Japanese. It's really good, but it's in Sintra. Michaela and I went because it was her birthday. And so we went there last night. We're driving. And I felt like once we got we were in an Uber, but once we got into like the streets where there's like a little more countryside, and it was like, it was almost like, like peaceful. Like it was weird. I was like, and Michaela and I immediately were like, man, once Andy's out of school, maybe we'll just buy a place out here. And then
it's really appealing.
There's an appeal about it for sure. Like the calmness and peacefulness of that. And I love living in the city because I'm a high
frequency.
Yeah. High frequency. I don't know what to call it. I'm a crazy person, like I think I get like bored and depressed if I don't have a lot of shit
stimulating you.
Yeah, stimulating me, which maybe I'm just like screw. But what's funny about that is I go on these 5-day backpacking trips. It's the best thing in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wonder what that is.
Yeah. And when you do a desert island trip,
I wonder. Yeah, dude. Seriously, we're gonna go. When's well, you have a ton of them, don't you?
Yeah, we got them running right now in Panama. But
how many people do you have who also run the experiences other than you?
Yeah, I've got 6 other instructors.
Okay.
Yeah, so we run trips in Panama, Philippines, and Tonga. We're adding one in Indonesia. I just got back from Indonesia.
Okay, so let's go all the way back because this is really a great story too. Because it's such a crazy business you own.
It is a little bit.
It's so cool though. You have the best business in the world. I mean, you literally get to like. I'm sure there's like challenges and stuff as always, but you like you said, the yin and yang of your life, you get to go and be on these desert islands and take people through these like pretty powerful, sometimes cathartic experiences on these desert islands, life-changing potentially, which isn't even the intent that you started with. So tell me about, which I've heard this story, but let's refresh it, of like what you were doing before.
Yeah.
What, 9 years ago?
Yeah.
So introduce us to
a
that,
little
Tom.
further and
Okay.
do the quick one. So I alluded to Fat Kid Tom.
Fat Kid Tom. Let's go to Fat Kid
Total
Tom.
failure.
Okay.
He somehow managed to scrape into university or college for you guys. And I just kind of went through this and I managed to, I was again like failing and just scraping by. And then my housemate was like, I am going to Fiji to map coral reefs. And I was like, that is what I need in my life. I need to be in Fiji mapping coral.
Were
I'm a
you
huge
still
David
like
Attenborough fan.
overweight at this point?
No, I pretty much lost the weight, but I had the confidence of a fat kid. Skinny man's body.
Yep.
And was still like kind of failing and stuff and smoking a lot of weed and just,
My man.
I was not, it was not looking good.
Not happy.
And so anyway, he was like, yeah, man, you should do it, but you're not coming to Fiji. This is my thing. It's a company called Coral Cay Conservation. They've got one in Honduras as well. So I was like, okay, I'll go to Honduras. And so as a year of university, I went to Honduras and I mapped coral reefs, and I'd never dived before. And I did 2 dives every day for 7 months and became a dive master. And there's the first time like I got a modicum of confidence. People asked me like, hey, Tom, I saw this fish, or how do I map this, or like all this stuff. And I became like, I get a modicum of self-respect and like self-belief, and came back
because you had something that you were good at now
for the first time.
Yeah.
And then I wrote my dissertation and my thesis on the effects of scuba tourism on coral reefs, and I got like 87%, and I got a good degree in the end. So I failed every year until my final year, and I got a good degree. And then I did what was expected of me. I went and got a proper job, and I found myself selling software for an American software company in Maidenhead, which is like a backwater.
Because you got the degree, so now it's time to get the career.
I did a little bit of travel, but then it was like, right, you've got to get a career, do what the family expects of you, etc., etc.
Okay.
And so I went to the office, and I was in my cubicle doing sales calls, selling software, and I was fucking...
Oh, you're a salesperson.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. And that seems like for you, like something you would hate.
Yeah,
is that accurate?
I'm okay at sales, but I
think you might be good at it, but it seems like something that would just kill your soul.
Definitely kills my soul.
Yeah. I mean, you were out there with no people for 30 days, and you're like, yeah, fuck people.
Yeah.
Like being a salesperson, talking to people all day, and like, that's got to be brutal.
Yeah, I remember drawing maps of the world from like memory and just like trying to hide away doing these. There was one time when I was driving back from work, and I was thinking, I could just crash into the central reservation of the motorway and get a few weeks in hospital so I don't have to go to work. And I was like,
oh my God,
dude, that's a suicidal tendency.
I need to change that with my life, bro. Yeah.
And then like a few weeks later, I was having pints with my mate Paul, and he was like, mate, I found this company there. I'm going to walk to the North Pole. And I was like, North Pole, that's what I need. I don't want to be pigeonholed as a software salesman. I need to walk to the North Pole.
Like, and they have these ideas, and you had good friends, I guess.
Yeah.
Who were doing crazy shit.
Yeah, and so I signed up to walk to the North Pole with Paul. And it was this amateur race. And Paul ended up joining the army and dropping out. And I found 2 more people, these guys, Stefan Rue, and we put this team together. And we trained for 2 years, raising money and getting fit. And then I walked to the North Pole in 2010. And that's a whole like different story and rabbit hole to go down.
Where did you?
We can go down.
I need a map. I just want to know like where you walked from.
So if you put in Resolute Bay. Yeah. So it's like the most northern settlement in Canada. And I went to the 1996 magnetic North Pole. So it's about 300 miles from the actual geographic North Pole. Yeah. If you go on a map, does that?
Oh yeah, here.
And so, we walked for a week.
So you started at Resolute Bay.
Well, from there, we walked for a week to the start line, whilst they assessed that we wouldn't die because it's an amateur race.
To the North Pole. Holy shit. Where the fuck is the North Pole? Is that like above Greenland or?
Yeah, it's basically up there.
Up here?
Yeah.
Okay. Throw a picture of this on for people on the podcast, but okay.
And so, we did that.
How far is that?
Well, we did a 370-mile race pulling sledges behind us.
Oh my God. Was it cold as shit?
Minus 36 was the coldest we had. And talking of cold as shit, there was one interesting day when I went out for a shit. And, the rule of having a shit at the North Pole is you do it as quick as possible.
Because it's just freezing.
It's fucking cold and you've got to get your ass out. And you've got to take your glove off. And so I did that. And it was the coldest day we'd had. It was like really howling wind.
You still got to poop.
Still got to poop.
Still got to poop.
So I dug my little hole. I squatted down. I wiped and I looked. We all look. And I was presented.
We all look.
I was presented.
That's so true.
With this horrific sight of a shit-covered hand, and
your hand,
the paper had blown away, and I was so
you couldn't
numb.
Even feel it.
Yeah, I couldn't feel that the paper had gone.
Oh my god!
And so, so I instantly was just like, no thoughts at all. I just put it into the snow and started wiping it off.
Yeah, that's what I would probably do.
Yeah, and then of course, like the slight bit of warmth in my hand melts the snow. It gets wet, and then you got like a -60 wind chill, and you've got minutes until you're going to get frost nip and frostbite in your fingers. And so I had to carry on the job with this kind of numb stump of a hand and carry on. And it got so excruciatingly painful. But I managed to finish the job.
Oh my.
And I ran in the tent and looking like I was as white as a sheet, as a ghost. And I put my hand under the armpit of my teammate, Rue. and he was like, what happened out there? What happened out there? And I was like, I proceeded to tell him the story. And he's like, fuck you, man.
Yeah,
and pushed me away to the other side.
Your hands under his
tent.
armpit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, no, it was
so how long? So 300 some miles, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
We managed to, so we had a week walking to the start line, and then we did the 370 miles I did it in 9.5 days. The longest team took 18.
Do you have dogs?
No.
Wait, 300 miles in 9 days?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we would walk.
How many miles per day is that? Yeah, you probably know.
I don't. I've never really clocked it.
300 and what was it?
370 divided by 9.5.
9.5. Okay.
9.5.
That's 38 miles per day. Are you running?
No. So what we did
What the fuck?
is we slept for 4 hours. So there's no darkness. So
it's always light.
It's perpetually light. So we would walk for 20.
There you go, flat earthers. Right? Yep. It's always light.
So we'd walk for sometimes 26, 28, 30 hours. Every 2 hours we would stop for 5 minutes.
How much are you carrying?
The sleds weigh about, 80, 100 kilos. But they're on skis.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Which is fine until you get to one of these bits where it's all like ice broken up and
80 to
stuff.
100 kilos, that's like 200 pounds.
That sounds maybe too much. Maybe like 60 to 80 kilos.
So like 150 pounds.
Yeah. But then, there was fuel for melting snow. There was all our food. They were heavy.
I bet they were heavy. Yeah.
We were eating 8,000, 10,000 calories a day as well.
You had to be. I mean, you are the dogs.
Yeah, we were the dogs.
Like, you should have brought some dogs, bro. Probably.
I think we'd have got disqualified.
How many people did this?
There were 8 teams.
Did you win?
We did, yeah.
You fucking won?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You won this. You won. Oh my God.
won that.
That's kind of wild.
And we missed the world record.
This outside shit.
This outside game. We missed the world record by 2 hours and 20 minutes. So close.
No.
So close.
Would you ever do it again?
And we won the race by 2 days.
Okay. To try and beat the world record?
No.
It's like, it's done. You did it.
Yeah.
What was harder? Was that harder or was...
That was harder.
But then the 35 days you were out for alone?
But you're a different person as well. That was when I was 27. I'm 40 now. And I think, I always say like, it's cliche, we all know it. The only way you grow as a person is when you leave your comfort zone, and then you live this kind of oscillation day to day in your comfort zone. And then that was like this giant stride way out here. So like growing my comfort zone, like blowing up this balloon, expanding it.
Yeah.
And then you come back into your day to day life and everything is more attainable and easier. You get a 30-hour delay and you've got to lie in the airport and watch Netflix and drink beer and eat chips. Like, great, fine,
easy.
Not a problem. It's 30 hours. Like I'm not walking. I've got food. I've got shelter, water, fire, food, etc.
Yeah.
And I think you reframe things, and so that adversity, that challenge, equipped me very well for this. But that was the first time I'd stepped really out my comfort zone. That was the first time I'd pushed myself to my limits, and it's harder, obviously, the first time you do it. Then it becomes easier.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, because you it's the first time, and then maybe on alone you're a little more.
It's all relative, I guess.
Well equipped.
So yeah, we as I said, we didn't have to adhere to daylight. We would just walk. So some days 20, 28, 30 hours. In the end, you have these obligatory checkpoints every 120 miles where you've got to have a medical and stop for 12 hours. And the second one we worked out, we were 3 hours in the lead, and we were like, okay, we can win this thing if we just don't stop for the last 120 miles. And so
did you do that?
Yeah, well, about 40 hours into it. we were falling asleep walking. Our trainer had taught us is like the mind always gives up before the body. I don't know if you've ever heard of the rule of 40%, but this is what endurance athletes say. Like when you want to stop, when you want to give up, you're at 40% of your limit.
Yeah, that's the David Goggins. I think that's what David Goggins says. Yeah.
And that's that mental giving up. You know, next time you're jogging and you want to stop, just tell yourself, 40%. That's my brain asking me to stop. My legs can still do it. Just slow down a little bit, keep going.
Yeah.
And so we really conditioned ourselves with this. But to the point where my teammates fell asleep into the snow walking. We literally just would pass out. Bloomf.
No fucking way. You just fall asleep.
And it got
like for how, like were you waking each other up?
Yeah, you would wake up as soon as you fell. But
we
we realized that we were starting to make so little progress that we ended up being like,
what's the point of this?
We'd seen the Huskies sleeping outside the shelters every day in training, so we're like, let's just do a husky sleep. And so we set an alarm and we curled up in a ball out in the snow just for like an hour and got like an hour nap, and then we carried on for another like.
How'd you feel after the hour nap?
That was a huge reset.
Did you feel so good?
So I mean, I didn't want to quite wake up, but yeah, it really helped.
Have you heard of the lady? It was really recent. She just won the Moab. It's a 250 mile race. I don't know where it was, but and she did it in, I think 3 or 4 days. Like it's running. And she was also she talked about, she was on the Joe Rogan podcast. She talked about how she was falling asleep while she was running, and she fell asleep for 1 minute on that. Like she just fell asleep and somebody was with her and they woke her up after 1 minute. And she thought she had napped for like an hour. And she's like, why'd you let me sleep for so long? He's like, you were out for 60 seconds. And she felt like a new person after 1 minute. And she's really wild. I think when you get to that point, your body just needs, it's like, nah, we're taking it. Like we're taking the sleep from you.
Yeah.
And then once it gets it, it'll let you, okay, you can push this further.
Yeah, 100%.
That's so crazy.
We were all hallucinating. You know, we all had a fourth person that wasn't there. We saw a polar bear that wasn't there.
No way.
You could see it punching through the snow looking for seals. We had the shotgun out.
You had the shotgun out because you saw a polar bear that wasn't actually there?
Yeah, and we're hitting our skis together. Like I'll show you the photo. We'll put it on the thing. Like it's a really
cool.
convincing
Yeah,
photo.
Send it to me. Okay.
I still think that bit of ice, like a polar bear.
What's the photo of? If it's of
this piece of ice.
Oh my God. That you thought was a polar bear.
Because you got this blank canvas of white and your brain starts to like,
it starts playing with it. Yeah.
And so
were you afraid when you were like, did you have a sense that it was a hallucination? I mean, you had the gun out, so
no, all of us were shouting. All of us could see it together. It's like this consensus between
you all had it.
Yeah, we could all.
So it was one of those group. That's interesting. Yeah. So you had one of these group hallucinations.
Yeah, and we just got closer and closer, and then we're like, wait a minute,
is this not a polar bear?
Yeah.
Wow. What kind of gun did you bring? It's
a pump action shotgun with a single slug bullet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So out there for 9 days, 300 and some miles pulling a fucking... How many of 3 or 4 of you?
We're a team of 3. Yeah, we're the fastest mixed. We've got the world record for the fastest mixed team. And then we were stranded at the finish line for a week waiting for a weather window. And
to leave?
Yeah.
Do they have like somewhere to like stay, like a cabin or some shit?
Yeah,
you stayed in tents?
That was another thing. Like we got there to the finish line and they weren't... I've got to tell you this last bit of the story as well. We were set to beat the world record by 5 hours. And everyone watching at home on the GPS could see like we were going to beat the world record. And then we basically just stand still. And everyone's like at home like, what the fuck? Why aren't you moving? Go! You're so close. You're at the finish line. It must like this blob next to a line just doesn't move. And...
did they fall? What's happening?
So we had great weather most of the time, and then this huge storm hit, and we had these winds right into our face, and we were on skis, but with skins on to give us grip, but then the skis were losing purchase and we're starting to slide backwards, and so we were like, okay, well we can't move forward, we're just sliding backwards, so let's put the skis onto our sleds, and we'll just have to walk, just walk on foot. And so we did that, but the snow was so soft that we were sinking like 5 inches every time, and how exhausting that is.
It's awful.
And then you do that at the end of walking for 365 miles, and it's you just this progress was just possibly slow, and so what was meant to take us 2 hours ended up taking us 7 hours.
So that's what took away the world record.
Yeah,
you'd be in Guinness right now if it hadn't fucking snowed at the wrong, or it had a storm at the wrong time.
Yeah, and so we got to the finish line, and we had to wake these people up who were there like manning the finish line. They're like, yeah, well done, we've put a tent up, get in there, the storm's getting worse. We're like, okay, very unceremonious. I think they made us a bacon sandwich and a hot chocolate.
Okay.
And so I got into this tent. We fell into the deepest sleep of our lives. Just like, oh my God, it's the best sleep you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
And then about 2 hours later, some guy grabs me by the shoulder and starts waking me up. He's like, get up. It's like some horrible army drill. Get up. The tent's beginning to rise at the corners. We need you outside to find the guy lines. I was like, shut up. No. And so they got us up. I don't, to this day, like, why couldn't the two of them done it themselves? I think there's
no way.
Yeah, they got us outside.
Were they just like incompetent? Like they didn't know how?
They just
and
wanted
like,
more help. I don't know. They thought it was a high risk situation.
And you were tired as shit. You were super tired.
I think I must have like told them to fuck off 100 times until I got out of my sleeping bag.
Really?
Because it's minus 25 inside that tent as well. You're in these amazing sleeping bags. And so, put on my like frozen boots, get out there. I was useless. I was just like, I'm just going to move my hands around until you tell me I can go back inside.
Like I'm doing something.
That was nothing I could do. And but that was like a bad dream, but that genuinely happened anyway.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those things that didn't actually happen. It was just like a shitty dream, but no, it did happen.
Yeah.
So have you ever thought about like climbing mountains? You seem like a person that'd be an easy next step.
Yeah,
I suppose it's a different skill set, mountaineering, but
yeah, it is totally different skill set, much higher risk. I'm not like I still don't. I think of myself as an accidental adventurer. I don't think of myself as like a proper adventurer, but I guess the resume is starting to build up that maybe I am. But I'm not extreme. I still like my creature comforts. I don't want to die. I don't like ultramarathon pain.
It is a different, there's a different, I feel like, mindset when you look at those people who do the crazy, like Everest, these crazy mountaineering stuff. The risk's a lot.
1 in 10 die, right?
It's wild. I read John Krauker, I can't say his name, John Krauker's book or whatever, of I think it was a 1993 or 1999 disaster or some shit. But he was on it. He's a journalist. Great book. Have you read it? It's called Into the
Not Into the Void.
Because he's the one who wrote Into the Wild.
Okay.
Right, which is a fantastic book. This one's called Into Thin Air. Into Thin Air. And he was on the journey and like half of his crew died. It's fucking crazy. Wow. Yeah, it's such like we try to pretend like it's not like we have, oxygen tanks and all these different things to like, oh, anyone can do it. But dude, it's not. No, if it decides to kill you, you're dead. Like it's Everest is crazy.
Yeah. And I think, Everest isn't cool anymore either.
It's not, right? Like, oh, you did Everest.
It's just egoically chest beating, 50 grand.
It is.
It's not,
If 50 grand, is that what it costs?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my God.
And there's plenty of more beautiful mountains that are 5 meters shorter that you're not going to have the queues and it's half the price. But no, your ego says you wanted to have done the highest mountain.
Yeah, but it's the highest. And I don't even know how there's different ways to calculate highest mountain, I think. So like Everest is only, I think, the highest by a certain specific metric. I don't know how it works. Okay. Maybe altitude, probably, right?
So if you climb one of the ones in Hawaii, if you go from the seabed, it's higher, right?
Yeah, exactly. It just starts super just
starting
high.
At sea level.
Yeah, start at sea. Exactly. Well, you go further potentially. Yeah,
start from the mantle.
Yep, exactly. Because I think Everest is just highest by altitude. Like it just goes the highest, but it's not necessarily the longest. I don't know. I could be talking. I don't fucking know.
So anyway, I walked to the North Pole.
Okay, you did. Dude, you walked to the fucking North Pole.
And I was 27, and then I left my job. And
that's where we were. That's right.
We were.
Yeah.
We're doing the life story. I said I'd do the short one. We failed to do the short one. No,
that's okay.
But it's okay.
I don't like the short one. That's right.
And then I met my wife, Eleanor, who you've met as well around the same time. And I'll just have to share that story because it's kind of interesting.
Sure.
We were in Goa on the beach, I was in Goa on the beach, and then I was chatting this girl up in the bar who now is my wife, and I was like, "Hi, my name's Tom. I'm walking to the North Pole," and like dick, and she was like, "Oh, that's nice. My boyfriend is walking to the South Pole. It's harder, isn't it?" And I was like, yeah, it's harder.
Damn it, you just got, what are the chances?
And she wasn't just being quick-witted and like putting me down. She was genuinely with the South Pole guy.
Who's going to the South Pole?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then he ended up not making it to the South Pole. She invited me to a house party, and I ended up, she broke up with South Pole the night before.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is with the beautiful poetic part of the story, and not to make light of mental health problems. But
okay.
She broke up with South Pole and got with North Pole because he was bipolar.
Oh my God.
Genuinely.
Dude, that's a dad joke.
It's a real joke.
Hilarious. But it's a real joke because that's really what happened.
That's genuinely what
happened.
We're
not making fun of anything.
No.
Facts.
He was bipolar.
He was bipolar. Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, so I had to segue on that pathway.
Yeah,
I'll rejoin the main pathway. And so, we both wanted to more adventure and to live abroad. And she was working for Diageo, the alcohol company.
Okay.
And she looked online and saw there was a job in Chile. She was like, do you want to move to Chile? And I'd only been with her for like 8 months. And I was like, yeah, I want to move to Chile.
Oh, that's amazing.
Never been to Chile.
Wow.
Nothing about it. And so we moved to Chile. I mean, there's a few other things. I sailed on a super yacht for 6,000 miles that year as well. Like, I'll never have a better year than
that year.
2010 North Pole super yacht. Moved to Chile.
That's amazing.
8,000 miles, sorry. And anyway, so moved to Chile. Couldn't speak any Spanish, and the only job I could get in English was working in finance, selling pensions. And so after all this cool shit, I went back to working for the man, back to the cubicle, back to sales, selling pensions. Yeah.
In Chile, right?
Chile.
Wow.
So at least I was in Chile. Like, at least red wine was basically free, and so was steaks. And at least like we had Patagonia, and we could go like kayaking and do cool shit. But I was again like unfulfilled.
But
and
still
depressed.
like 8 hours a day type of thing, like 9 to 5.
Sort of. It was 100% commission, so at least I was in control of my time a bit more.
But it was still not what you wanted to be doing.
Not what I wanted. And I really feel that life is not a dress rehearsal. You know, you get one go at this. And I'm like, I refuse to just settle and work for the man and do something that doesn't fulfill me. I'm not going to use all of these minutes of my life doing something that leaves me unhappy.
How long did you do the finance stuff?
So I did that for another 5-6 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
But like, would you say pretty much that whole time you were like, fuck this?
Yeah.
Like with
but it was easy because of the control of my own time. So I could take a month off sort of and go, and if I closed a good deal, I could go and do.
Were you kind of like waiting though for an opportunity to not do that, like hoping, biding your time? That
and I think an important lesson is you can't wait for these things. You know, you've got to control your own destiny. You've got to make shit come to you.
So what'd you do? So what'd you do? How'd you make shit come to you?
So I as I was again like in my cubicle, kind of fantasizing of escape, I think I was watching some documentary, a nature documentary, and about the marine life in remote parts of French Polynesia. And I was like, I want to get out there. I want to see the parts of the world where we've had little influence, and I'm desperate to see that because I love the natural world. And I was like, I want to be marooned on a desert island. And then I started like just going down a Google rabbit hole, and I found this company doing island survival experiences in Belize. And I was like, okay, that's not too far from Chile. I'll go on that trip. And I went on this trip and I was like, this is kind of cool, but it could be done so much better. The guy, he's like ex-British Army, is a bit coarse and misogynistic. The island was infested with sandflies and it wasn't uninhabited, and I could see lights on the horizon. I was like, this is not what I had in my mind.
Okay.
Maybe I should create what I've got in my mind, like reinvent this. And so I took some of the concepts, and like no one has original ideas really these days, but I took some of these and I watched this show called Bear Grylls The Island. I found the production manager and I found him online. I emailed him and I was like, hey, I'm looking for an island to take people to be marooned on. And he's like, yeah, sure, I can help you out. He got me the pass from the municipality. I put out a note on Facebook and I was like, hey, does anyone want to try like this first desert island experience I'm putting together? And like four
people.
Four hopeful people like, let's do it. And I did all at cost price, and they flew out. In fact, no, 8 of us. So those 4 invited 4 friends, and 8 of us went. And, you know, it was bootstrapping, flying by the seat of your pants. Like, everything's going to go wrong, guys, but I just want your feedback. And
so you were still working while you're doing all this. So it's kind of on the side, like, I'm going to see if I can make this happen. Yeah,
for about a year and a half concurrently, I did desert island survival and pensions.
And the first one was just this, like, let's get some people, you know, we'll all kind of pay our own way.
Yeah.
And see like what this is like.
Yeah. And see if.
And what was that first? What was the first one like?
It's great.
Was it amazing?
Really, really good. And everyone was resoundingly positive about it. We're like, dude, you got something here. This is really special. Really, really special. This is what we want. This is what a lot of people want.
Holy shit.
And I was like, yeah, okay. So then I started building a website.
It's some validation, like.
Yeah. It gave me that impetus, and I enjoyed it immensely. And so I started building a website. You know, I knew nothing about being an entrepreneur or setting up a business, and I just started like blindly building it, and then like I didn't even have a CRM system or any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like they say being an entrepreneur is like jumping off a cliff and building a jumbo jet on the way down. And I was like very slowly building this epoxy propeller plane. And yeah, like fast forward 7 years now, we're a real business.
Yeah.
And we do like over 20 expeditions a year around the world.
That's so crazy.
I've got only one full-time member of staff who does all the operations and logistics, and she's
Wow.
fantastic. And then 6 instructors, and yeah.
How many did you do the first year you did it? Like when you were still working finance and shit? So like after that first one?
Yeah, I think we did 3 or 4.
And were they like free still, or were you like charging yet? Or?
we were charging like, I think they're about £1,700.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
They're about £3,000.
And did you just have one island at that point that you were doing?
Yeah, just Panama. And then we added one in French Polynesia that I've decided is not quite good enough. I'm very picky about islands.
So what are like your criteria when you choose an island? Because we've talked about this a little bit, but like there's obviously a lot of islands, but not enough. And so like, what are the criteria when you're looking at an island for like, this can be part of desert island survival?
Yeah. So last year we sold out, and the bottleneck was desert islands, and we were always looking to add desert islands, but I refuse to like compromise on quality, and I'm really picky about these islands. And so they've got to be close enough to, I guess, the tourist area that we've got a airport, we've got a hotel, we've got a hospital in case of evacuation. But then they can't be too close that it just breaks this illusion of isolation that, you've got tourist boats coming by and lights on the horizon, and you just feel like you're in, like most parts of Thailand, for example, there's nothing quite isolated enough. So that's that first kind of zone, and the first box you got to tick.
Okay.
And then after that, it's got to be beautiful. I think people want that stunning Bounty advert. I don't know if you get that chocolate bar in the US.
I don't. I don't think I've had. What's it called?
Like Bounty. But they want that beautiful tropical island. Then it's got to have sufficient resources for us to be able to run enough trips there without us depleting it, like enough coconuts and palm fronds and fish.
Because these people are surviving there.
Yeah,
right?
I'll talk about what the experience is in a minute. And then it's got to be safe. Like you've got to have no pirates, no pit vipers. And generally, like we laugh, but like piracy is a problem. Like in the southern Philippines, there's so many good islands, but it's just too dangerous. There's Islamic breakaway groups. There's a lot of piracy in the South China Sea still. And,
that's not worth it. Having pirates roll up on your vacation or excursion. Yeah,
and then no venomous snakes as well as one of the criteria which we.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can there be other deadly stuff? Why just snakes?
Well, the problem with venomous snakes obviously is that it can lead to death. Whereas most scorpions, there's only a few scorpions and spiders which you normally will have to have a weak heart or a disposition or be very young
for it to actually kill you.
Yeah. So,
but like a snake will just kill you.
Yeah, a snake will just kill you. So we don't mess
around. I fucking hate snakes, so that's good. That's good.
Danger noodles.
Yeah, but if they're non-venomous snakes, it's like that's fine.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
And then we've ticked all those boxes, and then we've got to find who owns it, which is really hard. Like you have like 4 or 5 people like, yeah, I own it, pay me. It's like, are you sure you own it?
Yeah, that's yeah.
And then it's got to be affordable. Like in Fiji, they're like, that'll be $40,000 for the week, and we're like, well, that's just impossible for us. And they're used to filming Castaway and Survivor and stuff, and so yeah. So it
has to be, the price has to make sense. You have to find the owner. How do you find the owner? You just like a shitload of Googling, like trying to figure out and probably calling governments. I don't know.
I've managed to find a few remotely, but normally it involves going to the area and talking to people and just talking to people.
You have to actually go there and talk to people, do detective work.
Yeah. It's a fun game, island hunting.
When I would guess some of these countries like maybe don't have super clean like ownership laws in terms of who actually owns the island. So
100%. Like the Australian guy who owns the island in the Philippines, he's currently going for a legal battle with a local
who's saying they own it.
Yeah, like he's had it for 15 years, and now they're saying no, that's bullshit. It's ours. So he's going to have to go to court, and it's like islands are really hard to buy and hold on to.
Wow. Have you ever thought about like buying a few?
Yeah,
at this point the business is doing well, and
I mean, like if you're in property and you buy an expensive property, the rental yield pro rata to the value of the property is terrible. Mm-hmm. The same with islands. Like it's just there's not a good business model there. But what I would love to do is create a charity that encourages people to buy fractions of islands to then preserve them for future wilderness. So like I had the idea of an NFT project where you could have 10,000 people that fractionally buy a desert island together.
Okay.
And instead of like posturing with a bored ape, you could have like a little symbol that shows that you are protecting wilderness through.
Dude, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Like
I
wish
people would do
that.
We
could have a social movement in protecting with pristine wildernesses. But
maybe that's your next thing.
I mean, that, like someone asked me, what's your 10-year plan? What's your legacy? Like, think big. And that would be it, like to be able to save islands and to be able to preserve islands for future generations. That'd be really beautiful.
And you've had islands have been such a life-changing thing for you.
Yeah. And they're such wonderful, magical places. And every time we're there, like even on the 25th trip to the Panamanian island, it will give up secrets that we don't know. Like we'll be just having dinner one day and like turtles will pop out of the sand and start like making their way to the beach. It was only like the 5th time we noticed the phosphorescent plankton glowing around us when we were swimming. We've come across we found pre-Columbian midden mounds, like ruins from the indigenous population, where we found their graves, we found their pottery fragments, we found like all of the shellfish that they'd eaten and stuff like that. Like
that's
in the jungle.
Amazing. Yeah. Like stuff no one else has ever stumbled across.
I'd heard rumors it was there, but we found it like 4 years later, and it was just like, I was like, I'm Indiana Jones. This is so
That's
cool.
how it feels. Yeah. Where's the?
It's there. We now show every group when we go to the Panama Island. It's
that's
magic,
amazing.
Really magic.
So, how many people are you typically bringing? I think you said 10.
Yeah, it's 10 guests with 2 instructors
on each.
And the experiences are designed for anyone really who has just an interest in this. Like we've had people that have never even been camping before. You don't have to. You just have to have the right attitude, really.
Be excited.
I've had a 78-year-old bloke from Stockport called John who's worked harder than many of the 19, 20-year-olds that have been on the
trip.
And so the idea is, the first 5 days in the island are like survival light, where we're building up your skills and your confidence, and we're
teaching you, right? How to survive. Yeah.
And so you're sleeping in an expedition hammock, which are really comfy with built-in mosquito nets and tarps and stuff. And we're feeding you all your meals. For 5 days, we're passing around a bottle of rum in the evening and playing games.
That's fucking
It's
awesome.
really good. And every day we're teaching shelter, water, fire, food. So you're learning to make fire by friction. You're learning to weave palms, to make natural cordage, to make traps, catch fish.
Wow.
Find water.
So you're getting some skills too. You can take home and use when you're camping or doing your own shit.
100%. Yeah. And like the other thing I'm really picky on is my instructors. So almost all of my instructors have been on the show alone now. So we've got I've used that as a hotbed for
any of the ones who are on with you.
Yeah, Naomi, who comes third on my one, is the guy who comes second in the Australian one. Mike is now one of our instructors. Lucas from season 1 of the US alone is one of our instructors.
That's your recruiting ground.
It
you
is.
just watch the show like, I'm going to call that guy.
Yeah, I like you. I warm to you. And I'm talking to another guy, Adam, right now, who's probably going to join us too.
That's amazing.
And I think it helps with credibility and stuff.
If you're like, hey, all these people were on this survival show that you know of. Yeah.
And they've got good stories around the campfire.
And
so for 5 days, you're kind of learning these skills. It's a really fun time. It's survival light. And then we kick you out the nest. Like people are like, but I could just do this a few more days. But we're like, no. Now it's the survival time. And so then for the final 3 days, they basically have everything they've made. So they've made their bow drill fire making kits. They've made their bowl, their chopsticks and things like this from a coconut. And then they get a machete, hand knife, some fish hooks, sat phone, medikit. And they go to a new part of the island, either on their own or as a tribe. And then they have 3 days to put into practice their newfound skills and to survive. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And
do you do longer ones? Like 3 days, I feel like
it's funny. Like everyone always asks, like, and everyone's stomach is bigger than or appetite is bigger than their eyes, or whatever the expression is. And those 3 days for like 5 days, and the 5 days for like 3 days, like time warps through adversity and challenge. And
I believe that
the German groups we're doing right now are actually 5 and 5, and we may consider making some changes, but generally like 3 days, most people say is the sweet spot. It feels just
good?
right
Because it's not too much.
It's enough to really feel it, but you're also like, God, I'm so ready to get to that hotel.
Ready for a warm bath.
Like, and we had these big YouTubers called Cara and Nate who have a big travel channel, like 3.5 million subscribers, and she puts it very well. She's like, she's done it twice now. They just came to Tonga. She calls it her gratitude reset, and you come back with this renewed appreciation for flat surfaces and showers and air conditioning and sand-free areas and food, and it is like you do have this shine for several weeks or a month afterwards. We're just like, so grateful for everything we have and what we've created around us. And
I imagine you are like, there's one lady on the Alone show talking about how she's like talking about tap water out of the tap. She's like, just turn it on, water comes out. And she's like, and there's this one part on the show where the lady, like, she's like, I boiled it, I filtered it, and this is what it looks like. And it looks like mud water. Did you see this?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my, was that what you were drinking too? Did it look like that?
I don't know why. She was taking water from the edge of the bank where there was like
more
silt.
stuff.
Yeah.
So can you drink that? And if you've boiled in Philly, it's just going to taste like terrible?
Just silt. It's just silt.
Ew.
It's not bacteria or anything necessarily.
You
But
just
it's
have to,
more,
like,
more
go out-
chance for bacteria because it can bind to the fragments of silt and take more heating. But if you boil long enough,
So if you don't
then
boil it
generally you're
enough.
fine. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was like, is that what all? Because you look, I'm like, it didn't look like the water's like that. But maybe that batch was just a bad batch.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I was like, that's like nasty looking. She's like, this tastes terrible.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
What? It looked awful, dude.
Soup.
Yeah, it was like, it's nasty.
And then just jumping back, you were saying like how it can be life changing for people, and I didn't create this as like transformational travel, but it has since transpired that it can be really impactful for people. For many people, it's the first time that they've ever really got off the hamster wheel of life and slowed down and stopped and look around. It's like taking off your glasses and noticing that they're smeared. You know, we don't stop and slow down and reflect. And I think that reflection is really good for people. And I've had people who have left their job, left their partner, changed like direction in life, lost. I had one person, she must have been like 300 pounds. She's now 120 pounds and just come again. She's lost like over half her body weight.
She was 300 pounds when she came the first time.
Yeah. And she's now like she now runs marathons.
No. And it was triggered by.
Yeah. And it's the first time she'd also ever left New Zealand. Like her friend was like, I'm doing this trip, come with me. And it just opened her eyes. Like
changed her life.
Completely changed her life. And so I'm not promising it as like some panacea.
No,
that
but I think it's a
lives,
natural. I think it's and it makes you wonder too, as a person who's never done anything like that, what might you discover out there?
Yeah.
You know, like who's the core of you, and like who are you, and what are you dealing with? You don't even know you're dealing with. That you're going to face out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were going back to about an hour and a half ago. You were saying about people losing their mind on a loan. And if you haven't spent time kind of staring down demons or things that you haven't dealt with, you know, in today's society, anytime you have an unpleasant thought, you're just like, I'll just pick up my phone and distract myself. And maybe when you're falling asleep, that's the only quiet time we have that we ever are like, oh, that's keeping me awake.
And that's when you think of all the shit, right? You're like, oh my God.
And like out there, you have nowhere to hide. You have to stare down these demons and process them. And I think it's good. You know, we don't have much boredom and reflection and contemplation in our society anymore. And we need all this stuff. Like the brain needs to process and defrag.
Yeah. Yeah. Boredom is, I think, a necessary component of our lives that we're really, really missing.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely. It's good for creativity. And
you go on the metro, like everybody just on their phone, you know, and it's like, or listening to music. I mean, people walk with headphones in. I mean, I just find it, because I don't listen to music, or ever have headphones in. I don't know why. I just don't. Michaela's much more like that, but I'm always like, why can't, I think it's important, even if you're on the metro and it's busy, like it's still important to like have time in your day where you're not, and I won't even pull my phone out a lot of times. I'll just sit there.
That's great.
You know, people watch, and it's a small thing, right? But it's what I can do with the city life I'm living, you know?
Yeah, that's mindful. That's nice.
It's important, I think, to have time. Otherwise, then when things start to really break down, you're not mentally capable of dealing with it.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And it's a huge freak out.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, so doing these kind of experiences promote resilience. And, And I think then you're armed when the shit does hit the fan in life. You have much more resilience to deal with adversity and challenge.
And is the boredom out there, like when you're out there for going back to you winning the 35 days, is the boredom like you said you just fished all the fucking time?
As soon as I felt bored, I went fishing.
Yeah. That seems, I mean, I think we'll show a picture of your hut, your shelter. What do you call it? A house?
Shelter.
It's a fucking house.
Fucking mansion.
Dude,
I'm kidding.
I mean, out there, you had like you had a log house. You had a little log house.
Just going to put the hot tub in, man.
On it, you had a fireplace. Okay. You're smoking your food. That's crazy. You did have a fireplace though.
I did, yeah.
That was to me the most like
and
crazy.
Stone flooring. I was happy with my stone flooring.
You had stone flooring too.
Shingle flooring.
Oh my God. What'd you do for the stone flooring?
I just collected loads of stone, like shingle.
Okay.
And then spread it across the floor.
And put it out.
And it was good for like keeping it cleaner, and it stopped like any sparks from setting fire to the ground because the ground.
Oh yeah, the worst. Did you have the fire on when you're sleeping? Like, did you leave it?
No, I was getting, I lit the fire to test it was drawing on the chimney, and then that was it. I never even like lit my fireplace.
You never got to use it?
And
Because you
everything,
won.
yeah, like it all ended.
See, that's a bummer.
Well, I was really, as I said, I was really sad not to experience winter out there. I wanted to like go into the dark recesses of my mind and have to deal with that, find out my limits and push myself and blow that balloon further, you know, deal with go right out of my comfort zone. And
how quick, because obviously in the show, like everything's edited, but how quick, like they land, so they call you, how long till they get there after they call and say you won?
They said, you've got 1 hour, say goodbye to your land. Yeah.
1 hour, and then they just come get you and you're out?
Yeah, and the helicopter was there.
No fucking way.
Yeah, it was really jarring.
That's got to be jarring, and it looked jarring. Like when you're like on the helicopter, kind of waving. I just felt like, I mean, I know you, and we've talked about it before I watched it, so there's that. But I just sensed like a melancholiness about having to leave. It's like
I felt such a
the amount of work I just
with
put
my
in
land.
there.
Yeah.
And now it's just back to like, okay, it's the gig is up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you won.
And I'd spent like a lot of time mentally creating mental fortitude of, I am going to be here 60 days. This is my mission, 60 days at least.
It was too easy.
And then I'm in my mind, there was this hill and I just got to the top and I was 4 days on the other side and I was coming down the other side and I was slowly on the way down to day 60. And yeah, suddenly it was done. And it was really hard to adjust and make that kind of shift in my brain.
It has to be. It's almost like they should have like a few days to let you accept that you're leaving. I don't know.
Interestingly, the person before quit on day 32. So they actually did leave me there for 2 days until they told me I won. But I didn't know. I'm still rationing my food.
Maybe they should have like told you won and then say, hey, you have a couple days though. Would that be better?
I don't know. I mean, I would have been dining like a king because as soon as they told me I'd won, I started like boiling all my fish and be like, right, I can quickly eat like a king. Even though I was about to be fed when
in that 1 hour.
Yeah, I started like cooking up fish.
That makes sense. Like
because you are still constantly always talking about food. Like I was still in a food deficit. I was probably burning 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day and eating 2,000.
Is like what are your thoughts out there? Is it like 90% about food? Like is most of your thinking
towards the end?
Around food?
I was starting to really crave, like burgers and kebabs and filthy stuff. Like, but
just anything.
But also your mind goes to again like to deep recesses. Like you start thinking about conversations when you're 14 years old, or like you start to like your brain is like going through the Filofax of like, can you entertain me? What have we got here? And it's amazing like how deep it goes to places that you just haven't visited in so long. Like you like
don't even
plucking out memories that you've almost completely forgotten. So I'm sure that's good for you as well.
That's gotta be, because there's like subconscious stuff you don't even know is affecting who you are and how you feel.
Yeah.
And then it's coming to the surface and you're confronting it.
Yeah, because like I don't meditate, but meditation is about observing your thoughts, isn't it?
That's right.
Right, there's a thought, let it pass, clear out, and you do without any of the free radicals of day-to-day life and just this simple existence. It becomes so much easier to observe your moods and your thoughts, and it's just got this real clear canvas and it's definitely.
What's the when you're in your day-to-day life? What's like, and for people who maybe they don't have the money or they just don't have the means right now to go be on a fucking desert island, what can people do you think in their everyday life? Like what would you say to somebody who's just like that maybe they're just barely making ends meet?
100%. So that's a great question. And I mean, the first thing you alluded to was how you didn't use your phone on the metro. I think all of us can find the time to just go and sit in the park without our phone. Is the critical aspect. I know a few people who say no phones at the weekend. They leave the house and then they just go and be more in the moment and they're more present. But yeah, just going and sitting in the park, observing nature. Mm-hmm. There's been some amazing studies of like in Japan, they prescribe forest bathing. And there's this study in Pittsburgh in 1988 where people had their gallbladders removed and they half the people had a view of like a brick building, the other half had a view of nature. And 99% of people who had the view of nature were convalescing less time and they used less pain medication. And it's amazing how just a little bit of nature and slowing down and stuff can really be mentally beneficial for us. And so yeah, just spending a little bit more time, but then in nature and in the park. But there's a really good book, guy called Alistair Humphreys, called Micro Adventures.
Okay.
That I found very inspiring. So this is very UK centric, but you get the concept. And so he listed like 50 micro adventures you could do in the UK with very little budget. And they're as small as like if you lived in London, he took a bivvy bag, which is like a waterproof sleeping bag, and he just slept up on Hampstead Heath, which is like a hill in London, after work. And then went back to work the next day. It's like, okay, like I've got scruffy hair, I'm a bit smelly, but just that one day that reset of just being a little bit more out in nature, sleeping under the stars, even in central London. He said, amazing impact on him. He felt brighter and better for it.
Yeah.
And then he walked around the M25. It's still horrific, but he sees deer and, just one of the coolest ones he did is they got these tractor tires, inner tubes from like a garage, and then they went down the Severn Estuary, which is this big tidal estuary you've got in the UK. We haven't got much wilderness compared to you guys, but even there, you get a wetsuit, you get in these tractor tires, you get a dry bag, and for 3 days with his friends, they just floated down this kind of estuary, camping out on beaches,
wow,
cooking up like boil in the bag stuff. And it's a micro adventure, and just like your 5-day hike, like you feel immensely reset by these things, and you can do that with very little cash. So
yeah, even if it's as little as going. I mean, I totally agree. The micro adventures is really smart, really interesting. I think anyone could do it and could benefit from it. And then also just the little things like not looking at your phone on the metro. One of the other things I like to do, I find walking without headphones or anything, just walking for like an hour is really, really nice way to calm yourself, kind of reset, feel good, get some movement.
We're lucky in this city. Like a lot of people I speak to who move from the States, so like all of our cities are made for the motor car, apart from New York.
Dude, and that's why we moved here. That was one of the main reasons for me, maybe a little bit for Michaela, but more so for me. I was so sick of driving fucking everywhere.
Yeah. And I bet your body feels so much better for it.
Oh, dude, I feel so much better. Just even when I'm not working out, I feel better than I did because, and we lived in Hawaii, which you think of Hawaii is like, oh, well, you're going to go to the beach and walk. It's still US. So everything's driving. There's a lot of actually really, really big people in Hawaii. They eat massive portions, but as does a lot of the US. But yeah, you drive everywhere, and here you walk. And that's why we wanted to come to Europe, because the streets are a lot more. I mean, you can never ever walk outside and other people aren't right next to you.
Yeah,
like anywhere, there's people everywhere walking.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes.
Great.
There's a lot of big parks too. But yeah, I'll go for a walk. I walk to Andy's school, which is from here. It's about an hour.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I'll just walk, and it's an hour walk. It's chill, and I just won't bring anything. I'll just walk. And that's when I get my best ideas.
Yeah.
That's when I get my best ideas.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about creativity and
a
little bit
facing your demons. Yep. Super important. So if people want to go on an excursion, they're like, I want to do a desert island survival with Tom. Just desertislandsurvival.com, right?
That's all right. Yeah. Desertislandsurvival.com. On Instagram, I'm Tom Williams Alone. I've just changed it to.
Okay.
And now I've started my...
Because you won. So now you're like, I got to put alone in there.
and yeah, just try to help people find me. And I've started TomWilliams.tv. I'm looking at creating like an adventure club. So
TomWilliams.tv is another one? Okay.
Yeah. So... and there I've got like a mailing list I'm building up for an adventure club, and I'm going to, outside of just desert islands, I'm looking at more, the same way I did that first desert island trip, looking at bootstrapping some other adventures and seeing which ones really resonate. So
what kind of adventures?
So we've got a few, like you've got Boundary Waters up in the States and parts of Canada where you can just get in a kayak and go for like 5-10 days down between lakes and stuff.
Yeah.
Looking at doing some self-sustaining kind of bushcraft survival trips in Canada, but kayaking day to day. I'm looking at, I was just mentioning it to you, the first desert island trip, which we're considering to do to Guinea-Bissau.
Yeah.
A country everyone knows where it is, of course. West Africa, we know that. So it's like this really obscure little African country that just happens to have direct flights from Lisbon. So it's quite interesting for us.
Yeah. How far out, if that works out, like what's the minimum time?
We may do that as soon as April next year. So I'm going to go in December for my first little recce, and then we'll do like a cost price experience.
Let me know, because that would be the one I would want to, and I'll bring my buddy Alec, and we'll go because that's close.
Yeah,
so that's easier.
It should. I mean, well, we'll see what it's like, but it should be a real adventure. It should be really cool.
Hell yeah.
And then another kayak one. I'm looking in the Okavango Delta of Botswana, which is like this huge floodplain size of France. That you've got incredible wildlife, and you can kayak across that. Yeah, basically anything that I've always wanted to do, I'm trying to make into a cool kind of group experience.
Yeah, amazing, dude. Well, go watch the show, people, on Channel 4. Turn your VPN on if you're not in the UK, but it might come to the US TV, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And follow Tom on Instagram. What was it again?
Tom Williams Alone.
At Tom Williams Alone. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.